Becoming a strategist, like most things, requires us to stack the right skills. People are rarely natural at it. Sure, there may be some outliers, but the vast majority of leaders and strategists I met got good at building and stacking skills over an extended length of time. Strategic thinking is a skill that is useful at all levels of your career, from intern right up until executive or owner. The difference I have seen is that when we are early in our career, there is a low expectation from our bosses to have these skills. After all, we're newbies. The expectation is we're hardworking with a healthy dose of gumption. As we move into leadership roles, we're expected to know how to do strategy, create a clear vision, and communicate persuasively. But many times these skills are not learned or acquired on the way up. Schools don't teach us problem solving and critical thinking skills. Neither do bachelor degrees and masters or PhDs. An MBA gets us closer to the mark, but it doesn't teach problem solving, critical thinking, and visual storytelling. When we go into the workforce, we learn the job but not necessarily the skill of strategy. So how do we learn this stuff? One way to learn this is as an apprentice, working closely with seasoned experts in strategy. I learned it this way. Working with skilled strategists accelerated my learning like nothing else. If you think back in your career, I bet you could point to the job and boss that accelerated your skills too. Then the second way is through repetition. If you don't write the strategy yourself, it's infinitely harder to get good at it. And I do mean literally write the strategy, like you are writing a story with a clear structure. The best strategists I've seen are great writers, but I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll get to talk about stories specifically a little later. If I think back at the best strategists, they either had a technical engineering type background and they're able to problem solve, or they had skill stack in the creative and have a creative background. They communicate well and tell an interesting story. And they're skill stacked on the technical side. In either scenario, the right combination of creative and technical skills help them become better strategists. Strategy is both art and science. This means to be a full stack strategist, we should acquire a combination of creative and technical skills. The concept of skill stacking, or specifically talent stacking, was first coined by Scott Adams. He talks about how layering multiple talents help make him unique and make him more valuable. And Alex Hormozi expanded on this concept by talking about skill stacking and describing it as a unique combination of skills that are compounding and creating exponential results. I've identified 7 skills or building blocks for the full stack strategist. The 7 building blocks are: 1. Problem solving. 2. Innovation. 3. Data analysis. 4. Economics. 5. Design. 6. Storytelling. And 7. Execution. If you can master these 7 skills, you can become a powerful strategist. I've seen strategists get there with a few, but the best ones combine all these building blocks. Each skill works with one another to compound the results. Before I go into each building block, if you're enjoying this type of strategy content and you want to get access to the tools and training to help you make strategy, then head over to my website, overnightstrategist.com. I've got a bunch of tools and frameworks to inspire your strategy making. I'll put the link in the description below. Okay, let's continue. Let's start with the first and also the most important skill: problem solving. The big lever mover. If you had to pick one to start and overinvest in, this would be it. The ability to define a problem and break it down to find a solution is the most powerful tool in the strategic thinker's toolbox. Strategists tend to play a role in thinking through and ultimately solving difficult problems. And businesses tend to invest a lot in the solving of the problem, whether that is with time and resources inside the company or by getting external help from advisors or consultants. The harder the problem to solve, the more the business invests to solve that problem. There are a few problem-solving frameworks out there that tend to have a similar structure, which include framing the problem, breaking it down into digestible pieces, solving each piece, and then bringing the findings together to communicate the solution. The problem-solving skill brings about clarity and structure, and it's a good place to start. 2. Innovation. Innovation is actually creative problem solving. So we could technically bundle it up with problem solving, but I think there is value in talking about it individually. Let's think of it as a close adjacent skill. There's a big body of study on innovation, and there are many types of innovation. But if we bring it back to a basic and practical level, the act of innovation begins by answering questions like, Can we make it faster? Can we make it easier for our customers? Can we make it personalized and tailor it to our customer? Can we make it cheaper? Can we automate or digitize it? There are many more, but this small set of questions can spark creative problem solving. 3. Data analysis. For those with an engineering or maths background, this will come easier. If you're the creative type, you may hate numbers, but there is value in learning the basics of data analysis. Data analysis starts with first understanding the metrics and the data set, and then cleaning it up so it can be processed. Once you have a set of raw data, the next part is asking the questions of the data that you can find answers, and then those answers lead you to insights. I like to use the Pareto 80-20 concept as a starting point in analyzing. What is the minority, the 20%, driving the majority of the outcome, the 80%? It gives me an idea that, for example, these sales come from these two products. I then progress to trend analysis across multiple timeframes to see how the numbers move across weekly, monthly, quarterly, and yearly timeframes. I look at year-on-year growth and multi-year average growth rates. And then depending on the nature of the problem, I progress to basic statistical analysis and look at the distribution from the mean and the shape of the curve to give me another lens on the data. All these analytical techniques start to give me an idea on what's going on in the business. They're like clues that I need to combine to form my insights. 4. Economics. Data analysis is often not enough. I often need to combine this with some sort of financial analysis. And I don't mean accounting or balance sheet analysis, though that is something we might need to do. When I say economics, I mean the economics of product and subscribers. Things like gross margins and net margins, volume and product mix, conversion rates, average price and unit costs, cost to acquire and customer lifetime value, incremental free cash flows of your strategy, the break-even and payback times, return on investment. These are all examples under the umbrella of economics. In a strategy, you often need to make a case for your idea, and that usually leads to being able to articulate the return on investment. This is important because executives, business owners, and decision makers play the game of opportunity cost. And your strategy needs to show that for all available alternatives, this is the best play on the table with the greatest economic value and returns. 5. Design. Design is a broad term. Here I'll refer specifically to visual design. Remember how I said earlier that strategy is both art and science? Well, this is the art part. Many strategists ignore this. It's like beneath them or something. It says it clutters the thinking, the content is what matters. Yes, the substance of course is most important, but it makes sense to learn visual design so we can express our ideas in a visual way. At least for me, I use visual tools to trigger how to think about insight and also how to express those insights. And I find people who read and use our strategy respond to visual communication. We can use the right visual or diagrams to easily explain concepts. I've tried text-only strategy communication, and I've also tried visual form of communication, and I found the visual way has more impact in the ability to sell an idea. Not saying we need to become designers, but just the basics alone is enough to let us stand out from the crowd. I'm no visual designer, but I learned the basics of design, and that actually gets the job done. Concepts like type, alignment, contrast, space, color, proximity, just to name a few, fundamental design principles can 2x our strategy presentation with minimal extra effort. It's a skill worth stacking, and it amplifies our message. 6. Storytelling. Okay, this is a big one. Storytelling is usually the separation between good and great strategists. Many can do the right things, excellent analysis, insights, great visuals, solid ideas, but if we fail to put together a structured and clear narrative, the entire strategy falls apart. We need to be able to communicate strategy, and that is often in written form, and in the form of a story. A story with a beginning, middle, and end. A story with conflict, hope, and resolution. Storytelling is a big deal when it comes to strategy, specifically high-stakes strategy that needs to go out to decision makers and more broadly to teams. There are many story structures. One story structure I like to use is to start with the context, then describe the conflict, and then after that, offer up an alternative, better way, let's call it the future state, then describe the set of strategic choices we need to make, And finally, the execution plan to bring that strategy into reality. There are simpler story structures and more elaborate ones. But as a general rule of thumb, we want in our strategy story to communicate the catalyst of change, whether that is the problem or opportunity, and then the required change itself, which is our perspective on the solution. Finally, 7. Execution. Most strategists ignore this one. We like to sit in our ivory tower and, well, strategize. Pro tip, if you really want to level up your strategy skills, be in charge of leading the implementation of an idea, and you will change how you look at strategy forever. Most strategies end up on the shelves, unfortunately. It's a cliche, but it's sort of true. The lens we want to use when creating a strategy is one of pragmatism. The strategy has to be actionable. It must be practically to be able to be implemented. A strategy should be an execution blueprint that your team can follow and implement and bring it into reality. The strategy should guide the day-to-day actions and bring the ambition to reality. Nowadays, when I write a strategy, I ask the question, if I personally had to execute the strategy, how would I do it? If I'm not personally executing the strategy, then I like to at least put myself in the shoes of the person who has to execute it. That helps me ground the strategy in reality and make it more practical and, importantly, implementable. Alright, those are the 7 building blocks of the full stack strategist. Thanks for watching till the end, and hope you enjoyed my take on skill stacking. Skill stacking is a powerful concept we can use to elevate our strategic thinking ability and become full stack strategists, so that we can solve tough problems and communicate strategy stories that inspire action. In my next video, I'll talk about how we can sequence the learning of these skills and progress as a full stack strategist. Thanks, and see you soon.